Hey guys, Bryan with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana, and I'm excited because I've had a brainstorm. I've come up with a new idea for sort of a new playlist. I'm always curious to learn more about what people think and what other people collect, and I get sick of talking about myself. Ironically, this video today is going to be me talking about myself, but I want to show you a new format for an interview process that I'm going to do, where I bring on collectors from all over the country and probably all over the world, big and small. I rub shoulders with some of the biggest collectors in the world that make me feel about the size of an anthill, and then I, have local collectors here who will have very niche collections or niche collections, very small collections. I like to poll the hobby and get their thoughts on big picture stuff, little picture stuff, ask them about their collection, ask them what they would change about the hobby. And so this new video playlist is going to be called 5 Questions. It's just that simple. I'm going to bring people on and I'm going to ask them questions. The purpose of today's video is just to kind of give you an idea of the types of questions that I'm going to ask these people. And these are questions that I've scripted. I've got a list of about 75 questions, and I'm going to kind of cycle through these. And sometimes I'll repeat the question, but it'll be a different person receiving the question that's answering. So we're going to learn a whole lot about a bunch of different people in this hobby. Some of these guys you're going to recognize. They're going to be content creators that you're very familiar with. Some of them are going to be big monster collectors that you know and love from Instagram and Facebook and from some other content, and then some of them are going to be local Louisiana guys. I don't think Louisiana gets enough credit. I joke all the time about how there's no collectors here in Louisiana, but there really are. There's some great local card shop owners that I'm going to have come on the show. There's some monster collectors here in Louisiana as well that a lot of people don't know about, and I just want to shed a little bit of light on a bunch of these different collectors and hear different people's perspectives about 5 simple questions. So all these videos should be short, which is really hard for me because I talk forever. Anyway, here's what it's going to be like. Every single time I have somebody come on, I'm going to ask them the first question. 10 words or less, describe your involvement in the hobby. Who are you? Who the heck are you in this hobby? 10 words or less. Here's my answer. Jordan, Giannis, Shaq, Doncic, LeBron, set collector, investor, collector, content creator. That's it. That's my answer right there, and that's what they're going to have to answer. So from a 10-word answer just like that, you're going to have to kind of gather who they are as a collector, where they fit in the hobby, what their goals are, and then we'll ask 5 questions following that. So just a sample of some of the types of questions I'm going to ask. Who are your top 4 players of all time in the NBA based on resume? In order, my answer is something that's been set in stone for probably about 2 years. I kind of flip-flopped. It is Michael Jordan, number 1, LeBron James, number 2, Wilt Chamberlain, number 3, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, number 4. Again, whenever we rank players historically based on resume, you have to take into account how good they were against players in their era, what their accolades were in their era, how they changed the game. I don't weight championship rings or finals MVPs as much as some other people in the hobby. I like to look at their aggregate. I don't like to focus on they've got 4 rings, they've got 3 rings. I don't make a huge distinction there. What I like to focus on is how much did they dominate their opponents during their era, and then I weighted even more heavily about during their prime. And for that reason, longevity does matter, but how good they were in their prime really matters, which is kind of why I have Shaq ranked so high, on my all-time lists. But that's my 4: MJ, LeBron, Wilt, Kareem. Question number 2: if you had to divide yourself percentage-wise into collector versus investor, what percentages would you be? I think I'm 60% collector, 40% investor. I never buy cards without thinking about whether that card will go up or down. I don't know if that precludes me from being a true collector. Again, I guess it just depends on your definition of collector. I never want to buy a card that I think is going down. Even if I want that card, I'll wait until it gets to a price point where I think it belongs, in which case it might go up. I'm not taking any of my cards to the grave. Again, I don't know if that precludes me from being a true collector by some people's definitions, but I would say 60% collector, 40% investor. If you took a look at my PWCC vault, I would say that about 80% of what's in that, 85 to 90% of what's in my vault will be in my vault 5 years from now. So again, my time frame is usually 3, 4, 5 years, even for cards that I think I might move one day to acquire bigger cards. Very rarely do I move cards for money and then take that money out of the hobby. One day that will be the case, but not this day. Question number 3. Is there a price for everything? Yes, there's a price for everything. And anybody who says there's not is, I'm not going to call someone a liar, but generally speaking, anybody who says that everything doesn't have a price is lying to you. I guess I've said it. So that doesn't keep me from being a true collector. If someone, wants my prized possession, if they want my Jordan Red PMG and they offer me 200 grand over market value, they're going to get it. If they want my Jordan PSA 10 Fleer and they want to offer me the price that it was in the first quarter of 2021, they're going to get it. There's a price for everything. Obviously, you know that if you follow my channel, I sold my Fleer PSA 10 set, which was by far, not even close, my most prized possession and my greatest accomplishment in the hobby. And I sold it for much less than it was worth a year ago, just because it was time to make other moves to put other cards in my collection that I covet even more. And then I'm currently in the process of selling my red PMG set, for those of you who weren't aware of that. And so those were probably the two things that meant the most to me in this hobby, and I've sold both of them. So for me, yes, there's a price for everything. Are you a grade snob? That's question number 4. Yes, I'm a grade snob. If I can get a card in PSA 10 or 9.5 BGS, I do it. Are there cards out there in my collection that are not, BGS 9.5 or PSA 10? Well, of course, because some cards, some grails, the grade does not matter at all. It could say authentic. It could be PSA 3. It could be PSA 4. I kind of desensitized myself to my snobbery, my grade snobbery, when I started collecting this red precious metal gem set, because they don't exist in BGS 9.5 or PSA 10. They just don't. They're just not there. Those are Sasquatches. And so I've gotten more acclimated to accepting cards, big cards in, PSA 6 to 8 and BGS 6 to 8. But other than that, if we're talking about 2012 Prism forward, or even, 2003 forward, I'm almost always looking for BGS 9.5 or PSA 10. That's just me. I don't know what it is about it, but I just like having the card in gem mint condition, because that's kind of my way of grading population control. So I would consider myself a grade snob, with the caveat that I make exceptions for Jordan. That's pretty much my answer. Yes, I'm a grade snob, but I will make an exception for very rare Jordan cards because I have no choice. Last question. What would you change about the hobby? I'm sorry, what's one thing you would change about the hobby? And I'm going to ask this question to a lot of people that come on the show. One thing that I would change about the hobby that bothers me and concerns me the most, and a lot of people have a different opinion on this than I do, I would like one uniform platform. Again, this is a crazy hypothetical. This is pie in the sky. This will never happen. You can't put it back in the bottle. It's already out and exploding. I would like one platform for sports cards to be bought and sold, so everybody's kind of on the same page. Is it dangerous from a monopolistic standpoint? Of course. But what concerns me is that we're not getting truly accurate data of what certain cards are worth, because certain cards are being sold on platforms that they probably shouldn't be sold on to maximize their market value. Again, I'm coming at you from an investor perspective. There's MySlabs, eBay, PWCC, Golden, Robert Edwards, Heritage. Look, 90sauctions.com coming along, which is going to be a great auction house as well for my good friend Josh Adams. There is ComC, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatnot. There is Twitter. There's a million places, card shops, local card shops, card shows, a million platforms to sell your cards. I don't want to get rid of card shows and local card shops. Don't get me wrong. But hypothetically, if you could create a perfect system where you could sell everything on one platform, similar to the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ or something like that. I know people hate these parallels between cards and stocks, but there's one for you. I think it would be great for the hobby, because all eyes would be targeted on the card in one place, and there would be no guessing. There's people out there that don't know what PWCC is. There's people out there that don't know what Golden is. They wouldn't know how to log on to Golden if you asked them. They may think there's a membership fee. A lot of people don't touch ComC. They have no idea what it is. So I just wish we could aggregate all the cards, the sports cards, and put them in one place. And I don't think it's ever going to happen, but that's one thing I would change if I could. Another concern and reason I think that would be great for the hobby, and if it wasn't one platform, maybe 2 or 3, is that I think it's a barrier to entry. If a brand new person comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy some sports cards, If I want to buy Michael Jordan cards, where should I go to buy those cards? You're about to give them a 500,000 word answer, and they're going to leave with their head spinning and say, you know what, maybe sports cards are not for me. It's a barrier to entry for new participants in the hobby, and new participants creates increasing demand. And that's what causes card values to go up in many cases, is new entrants to the hobby. They grow their collection and they eventually put the price point increases, which is what we saw, pre-COVID, but especially during and post-COVID. Is an increase in demand that the world has never seen in a short time period, which caused prices to explode. Again, now we've seen them come down as people have lost their ass and they've bailed on the hobby. Crypto and stock has affected their ability to buy cards at exorbitant prices as well. So prices are coming back down. Some people would say to where they belong or where they are supposed to be. We don't know where the floor is. We're finding that right now. I'm not in a panic mode. I think it's going to be a great long-term hobby to be a part of from an investor standpoint. But I think having one sales platform would make it easier for new people who are interested in dipping their toe in the water to do so, to come in and dip their toe in the water and figure out what's going on. When you've got to go memorize all the different buyer's premiums, seller fees, this membership, login, password, when does this auction close? When do these auction closes? Weekly versus Premier versus ComC versus eBay auctions, buy it nows, best offers, my slabs. It's too much, man. It's too much. If it's too much for me and I live and breathe this stuff, then it is way too much for for Freddie Smith that comes up and says, hey, Cajun Cardboard, tell me about how I can get involved in the hobby. It's mind blowing. So reducing the quantity of platforms is one thing that I would change. And don't get me started on the number of grading companies or the number of products or the number of parallels. And this is just really my theory is too much is, the more, it's not the more the merrier. Sometimes more is too much, and it's not a good thing for the hobby. So that's just my thoughts. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words, but that's the one thing I would change. And I took a lot longer than I intend for our guests to take, but that's just an example of 5 of the questions that I'm going to ask, and we're going to go rapid fire through it and let you guys get to meet a lot of the people out there in the hobby. Hopefully some people will accept my invitation to come on here and join, and it'll be a fun little back and forth that you guys can watch while you're sprinting a couple miles. 12 minutes. That's about what each one of these is going to be. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about this format and if this is something that would interest you. And I appreciate you guys watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.